When I'm not getting cold ready for the NFL draft, we're watching Sons of UCF Live. Real nice. Charge on.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Strelko. Welcome into the Sons of UCF Live. Adam, Mike, hello, and happy J.P. Gilbert birthday to all of you.
I don't care. Good luck.
Yeah, happy birthday, JP. I forgot to say it on Twitter, but here we are. I guess we're doing birthday announcement. Whose birthday is it next week?
Future birthday announcements come at a cost.
Can we do guess the age from now on? Like, can we do guess the age?
Ooh. What do you put, JP?
You said he was 35, right?
I think he's like 34 or 35, yeah.
I think he said 35.
Gotcha.
I have no way to fact check this, though. Yeah.
And congratulations to the both of you. 100% scientific research indicated that by Big Game Boomer, the Sons of UCF, best podcast covering UCF. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Yeah, it's quite an honor. I was disappointed to learn that Mike D. Knight 2016 voted for the Pegasus podcast, but you know what? We appreciate the honor from Big Game Boomer. It's good to be on one of those little something you hang up on your house, I guess.
I've always said this guy is right. He's got his hand right on the pulse of everything, right? He knows it all. Big Game Boomer. All his charts, I take them all to heart. And he's right on this one. You know what caught my eye? There was like two other Sons podcasts out there. I forget what schools they were. Yeah. I think Virginia Tech, Sons of something, and something else.
There's some
everyone
talk
missed
today
a
on
low-key
social
joke.
Media. The stepsons of UCF was
I've heard about that, yeah.
Today. Yeah.
We're efforting that. There's a low-key joke that on there that the U.S. squad what Colin heard. So I don't know if anyone caught the actual joke. I think he was trying to play on that list. But we're just happy to be nominated. A lot of great folks in the categories. This is all of our awards. We'll just take it home with us.
No, I was a little surprised it wasn't dudes on the mall, to be honest. But I think Big Game Boomer is a little biased since he's been on our podcast a couple times. But we all know the dudes are where it's at.
You know what put you over the top was hosted by UCF alums. It's important, okay?
Yeah.
And not advocating for our friends over in Tampa. I think those are two things that combine to help put you over the top in this.
We're getting spicy off the top. Yeah, I mean, Mike and I was just penning a column right now about how that Tulsa rivalry needs to continue. So I don't know if I'm going to hit backspace on that just yet, but it could be coming soon. My counterpoint, are you ready?
Yeah, sure. So we're like the best of the worst is what you're telling us? We made it by default, I guess. We're the only ones that are not just turning the fan base against us.
No, It's so much more than that. As the reviews have said, the 5-star reviews, talking UCF sports year round and bringing on the most interesting guests. And you guys are prolific, except when you take a week off or so. And when Mike may not show on time. But other than that, it's stellar. Now, what helps on this, of course, is when you book Big Game Boomer on shows. That helps put you over the top as well.
Doesn't hurt.
You didn't like Contravious
you here for the second
Wilson
week in a row.
Let's talk a little news and notes. SEC over in Orlando, Auburn over in Orlando. Former Auburn linebacker Deshaun Davis, new grad assistant for UCF. Gus continues to surround himself with people he's worked with before. A good addition to the Knights here. In the slow months of June, a little news to Coach Malzahn's staff.
Yeah, I'm low-key excited about this. I have no idea if he can coach or not. Obviously, as a grad assistant, he's on that ground floor. But linebacker is a position where we know we need some assistance. T-Will is the technical linebackers coach. He's obviously got a lot of responsibilities coordinating the whole defense. Deshaun Davis, a younger player, so maybe relates to the college kid these days. So maybe that's a good hire. Potentially. Again, I have no idea if he can coach, but on paper, I like that we're bringing in a young, energetic guy to coach the linebackers position and need a position where T-Will maybe a tad stretched thin. So welcome to Deshaun Davis. Once a night, always a night.
Yeah, if you played linebacker under Malzahn and that whole system, he's familiar with everything. He's probably able to teach it a little bit better. So anytime you bring somebody he's familiar with, I think it's a good thing.
Athletic Director Terry Mahajer finding some more money out with the old, no longer the Tower Club that you may know, now the 3MG Club. worth about $350,000 annually. What's the Suns' budget for sponsoring something in the stadium? If you offered something, do you think you could get something named after the best podcast covering UCF, according to Big Game Boom?
There's a door handle on the bathroom in the cabana that Mike and I are really looking closely at. A lot of silver. You can engrave Sons of UCF right there on that. So that's our eyes are set there. Keep an eye on that.
Not the door handle. I want my own urinal. I want a urinal. All you got to do is put a little Sons of UCF sticker above it. It's the Sons of UCF urinal. Have it in the men's cabana.
Mike, you're making hats. There's the tumblers. What about stickers that you just stick all over the stadium, unofficially sponsoring parts of the stadium?
Here we go.
I mean, we have our flyers. My plan was to bring a bunch of them into the stadium last year. I never ended up doing it.
You got about 900 of those left. Am I correct on that?
Close to it. Adam has
give or take. Give or take.
Yeah,
give or take.
I have a few still here.
You just said once a night, always a night. How does former running back Ventavious Thompson fit into that? Now an Oklahoma Sooner.
Tricky one. Obviously, we don't always know the situation surrounding things. He was obviously let go from the team for whatever reason. His name is not Thomas. I don't know why I wrote that on the screen there. So I don't know what surrounds his departure. We wish him well, obviously, whatever he does in Oklahoma. It seems like a fit, but he waited a long time. I saw somebody ask on Twitter, is this the longest a player has been in the portal and go from D1 to D1 school?
Hasn't he?
So there's something at play here. Obviously, Jeff Lebby, his former OC, Dylan Gabriel, his former quarterback, I'm sure had some vouching for. So, I mean, if something happened, you wish the kid the best. Hopefully, you learn from a mistake if one was made. I don't know if this is a once a night, always a night territory just yet.
I forgot that he was still in the portal. To be honest, I'd forgotten all about him. I didn't know. I thought maybe he transferred somewhere else, and I didn't realize it. But somebody's going to give him an opportunity to play. Oklahoma's a nice landing spot for somebody like that. So. Good for him. I mean, if he's going to be scoring touchdowns with Dylan Gabriel, I'm not going to be rooting for him every week. But, wherever leads him to success, I guess.
Gabriel hands off to Bino coming up this fall in Norman.
Well, I saw the depth chart. He's at least pegged to be somewhere in that third, fourth rotation right now. So I don't know how much run he'll get. Obviously, he knows the playbook well, so we'll see if he's able to break in. But obviously, to your point, Trace, he went such a long time. You wonder what his opportunities were, but found an opportunity. Hopefully, makes the most of a second chance. I mean, I'm sure we'd all want a second chance if something didn't go our way. So hopefully, he makes the most of it.
Last week, 60% of Night fans graded the offensive line a B in a poll that I posted on my Twitter @SignPez. This week, the defensive line, 61% a B. So are we going to win all of the games in the 2022 season with a B graded offensive and defensive line, Mike?
You can win a lot of games with that, as long as they're not very bad, especially the offensive line. But the defensive line should be good. We have a lot of depth coming back. We said this last year. We had a lot of guys we could rotate in too deep. So we lose Big Cat, but you hope for guys like Selascar to keep developing. Ricky Barber, he's got to stay healthy. No, that's going to be the key to this whole year. Can we stay healthy?
Yeah, you look at that middle, Trace, a combo of Hester, Barber, and Hunter. Again, we haven't seen a lot of Hunter. He's obviously hasn't played a bunch. Barber was injured last year. Keenan Hester was fantastic last year, stepping in for injuries to both Khalid Davis and Cam Good. So he got some quality minutes. Mike's right on Selascar. I think the wild card, if you look at this clip on here, it's really two names to me. Katie McDaniel, the transfer from Kentucky. What can he bring? And can he be that Big Cat hybrid? And which version of Tremont Morris Brash will enter the building? We've seen flashes where he can be absolutely dominant and just mow through and run past offensive linemen. And then we've seen spells where we don't hear his name called. So which version of TMB are we going to get? I think those two are the X factors. And as they go, I think the line will go.
Mike, you mentioned health there, but somewhere along the line there will be an injury. Do you like the depth at this position?
Yeah, I just said I did. I like them. And even guys not listed here. Our boy Austin Camden, right? He's going to fill in there too when need be. We got a lot of guys, and at least he's the guy that has experience. He should know exactly where to be at the right time. So I think we're fine on the defensive line.
Talk about defensive line this week. I'm a little nervous to ask about linebackers. I might just skip them next week and ask about the secondary, maybe even special teams, because I don't think that grade at linebacker is going to be very good. Last week, we mentioned some of the College Football Hall of Fame nominees, and there were 4 nights on that list. And I reached out to see what I could find in locating some of those guys, and fortunate to welcome in our first guest of the evening, wide receiver, Bernard Forward, Athletics Hall of Fame for UCF 2011. Bernard, welcome into the Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Can you just imagine that the program that you were a part of in the mid-'80s has now reached this status of being in the Big 12 in just 1 year?
We couldn't see it back in 1985. Actually, we saw the plans that were in place for a lot of what is there now, but we just couldn't vision that at that time. No.
Bernard, Mike and I have been fortunate to have a lot of former nights on, and I love asking this question because we have a lot of younger viewers and listeners. Take us back to that 1985, 86 era that you were in. What were facilities like? Where were you training at? What was practice like? You played in the Citrus Bowl. Can you describe the facility and infrastructure that was in place back in the mid-'80s?
When I got on campus, we had a trailer, a little mini trailer, kind of like what you have for, I would say, 3rd or 4th graders. Really, those were our meeting rooms. We did have a building where trainers, coaching staff were housed, so that was there, but it was relatively new. You could tell it was a startup, so to speak.
We may have only been Division III back then, but we had guys on those teams that went to the NFL. I mean, Ted Wilson, Elgin Davis, Corus Irvin, and yourself, all drafted to the NFL. How good were those teams?
Division II we were in, we had a lot of really, really, really good talent. From the day I got there until now. I mean, the talent pool in Florida is very vast. So we had a lot of great players, even though we were Division II.
What caught your eye about UCF at the time, and what was the pitch from Gene McDowell and his staff in that mid-'80s timeframe?
Great question. So I came out of Cordell, Georgia. My head coach, Farrell Henry, and Coach McDowell were teammates at Florida State. And I was recruited by some major colleges, but I actually signed a scholarship to go to Florida State because Coach Henry contacted Coach McDowell. Coach McDowell came to see me and signed me to a letter of intent to go to Florida State. But he said that I was a little bit too small weight-wise, and he wanted to get some weight on me so that if I went to Florida State, which I could, I would redshirt, which means I wouldn't. And I asked him what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. He said, well, you won't play, you just practice. But if you want to play, we can send you to a junior college, hopefully get, 10, 15 pounds on you, and then you can come into Florida State in the spring. So I chose that option. As I was at Marion Institute, Coach McDowell took the head coaching job at Central Florida. And of course, the rest is history.
Doing some research on you, Bernard, you had a couple of monster games. So I got a couple of things. First, I'm gonna throw a throwback photo on the screen for you here. I don't know if this one rings a bell for you here. This is you catching a pass in your time at UCF. In the game against Northwestern Missouri State, you had 4 touchdown catches. What do you remember about that afternoon playing against Northwest Missouri State and your 4 touchdowns?
I remember that we need to get wins in order to keep the program alive. So we were told back in those days we had 2 seasons. My sophomore year, I didn't play. My first year, my sophomore year, I didn't play as well as I did my junior and senior year. So my junior years, I was told that the whole team was told that if we didn't get in the playoffs, within 2 years, they were going to shut the program down. So going into every game, including the game that you mentioned, my sole focus was if I played well, then I felt like the team would play well. And if I didn't play well, I didn't think the team would play very well. That was a feeling from all the coaching staff, all the coaches on the staff at the time. So my focus was to play well, and I played very well in that game.
You also played well against another opponent, Elon, that same season. You had 14 receptions that day. What's that like? Are you just in a zone at that point in time? What's it like to be in a spot where you've got 14 catches for a game?
To be honest with you, I didn't even know I had caught that many balls. You're not really thinking about that when you're in this zone, as they call it. So after the game, when Coach Stark came up to me, he said, you caught 14 balls. I go, really? I said, well, okay. Then I think I can catch 15 next week. That's just the way I played at the time. We had to play well in order to keep the program going. So anything I felt like.
Did you get 15 next week?
No.
Did you get 15 the next week? No.
But I tell you this, though. The thing that I'm most proud of out of all the records that I still have and had at UCF, I blocked 13 punts in my career.
Wow. That's a lot.
I don't think we blocked 13 punts since you left.
Yeah, I blocked 13 punts. So that's the thing that I'm most proud of, to be honest.
Talk about all the records. We know how fast you were back then. How fast were you back then? And you look like you're in still great shape now. How fast are you today?
I couldn't tell you how fast I am today. But, my adage is, if I have 2 weeks, I think I could be in football shape to go play again. I was pretty fast. But you got to think. We had the players that you mentioned. We had Corey Irvin. We had Elgin Davis. We had Teddy Wilson. We had Aaron Sam. We had Wyatt Bogan. We had Victor Riddle. We had a lot of great players. 2 good quarterbacks, Tony Lanham, Darren Slack, a really good tight end, Mac Lantrip. We had a lot of good players for a team that was Division II.
In reading your bio at UCFathletics.com, it mentions punt returner, kick returner. It also mentions you as a punter. Is that correct? Is that a typo? You were also the punter at times?
No. I punted at times, and kick returns. I threw reverse passes. I give you a true story. I was the 3rd team quarterback in my professional career on the teams that I played for. So instead of carrying 3 quarterbacks, I was the emergency quarterback as a 3rd quarterback.
Did you ever get a pass off? Did you ever get in the game and get a chance to rifle one?
No, but I got a chance to practice. So which means I got a chance to be in the quarterback room and to hear what the quarterbacks go through. I remember when I was in Houston, which I got the most emphasis put on being the 3rd quarterback. We had Warren Moon and we had Cody Carlson, and it was me. So in practice, I would get my 7 to 10 plays, and Cody would get the 2nd team quarterback reps. And of course, Warren, being the Hall of Famer that he is, was the starting quarterback. But I felt like I could do anything on the football field. Absolutely anything. I felt like I could play any position on the football field, including the offensive line.
Well, you mentioned the NFL career. Go ahead.
When you see this photo right here, Bernard, what comes to your mind? What memories? the original number 8 in front of what I suppose is Milliken Hall behind you there. What comes to your mind when you see this photograph?
That's a lot of great memories. We had a lot of good times, and even though the school was big land-wise and had a lot of space, a lot of buildings, we had I think we had 20,000 or so students. It brings back a lot of good memories. It really does.
You're talking about playing in Houston. You also played in Buffalo, Miami, Green Bay. What am I forgetting? Philadelphia, and also London. So Dallas. What was your favorite city to live in?
I would have to say my favorite city to live in. All of them had their different things that you really liked. I would say Dallas.
What was it about Dallas? Is it the food, the barbecue?
it was that being the Cowboys is a really big brand, even though at the time our team wasn't very good. But the fans in Dallas are really, really, really all about the Cowboys.
You get the call from UCF to be a part of the 2011 Athletics Hall of Fame class. Take us through that. What was that experience like for you to be recognized and enshrined in UCF's Hall of Fame?
Very humbling. My dream was to play professional football. I never got to the point of some of the awards, some of the accolades, some of the the Hall of Fame. I never dreamed about being in the Hall of Fame with anything. So it was very humbling for me.
And do you realize your place now in this story? I saw a viewer, Lauren's, comment earlier that it's nice to hear from players that have been part of paving the way to the success that UCF has now, that are still part of the UCF family.
Yes. I play golf every Sunday with George McGluta, Perry Belasis. Every Tuesday night, we do men's night with my college roommate, Robert Eckler. There's a myriad of guys that I played with that are still here locally that I see on a weekly basis. So we see each other very often. We hang out together and do different things together all the time. I'm thrilled to death about it.
What are your thoughts on the current states of the Knights? Obviously, a great season in 2017. Gus Malzahn on campus stadium, going to the Big 12. What are your thoughts about where UCF is at today, and what do you think the future holds for a program like UCF?
I'll take the second question first. I think the potential that UCF has is really unlimited. I'm very proud of the fact that where the school is now, through Coach O'Leary's time and regime there, the way the program is now, I mean, we're nationally known, and then we've had some overseas exposure as well too. So I think the program is really on solid ground. I'm just thrilled to death.
One of the new things in college football now, players can get paid for their name, image, and likeness. If they had this rule back then when you were playing, what sponsor would you like to have sponsored you? I mean, you got the speed, you got some catchy things you could go with there.
Well, Manny Messinger, believe it or not, is still involved with the program. Manny was involved with the program when I got to UCF in 1985. So I would say I could envision myself with some type of car dealership in an NIL license agreement because of him.
How do you look back on that dream of playing in the pros? Is it what you thought it would be during your stops in the NFL and also the World League?
It was everything I imagined and more. A lot of great friends, a lot of super great talented people, relationships that really last a lifetime. So I cherish those moments each and every day.
A lot of talk this week on social media for UCF fans about rivalries. Who were your rivals back then as a team? I know it was up a little different than what we see today. Who were the schools that were really your big rivals back when you played?
Bethune-Cookman. Believe it or not, they had a lot of great players. I was fortunate enough to play against a defensive back, Terry Williams. He was about 6'2", 200 pounds, ran a 4.4, and was a second-round pick for the Jets. So I got prepared for people like that by going up against Corus Irvin every single day. So Corus and I had, battles. We had 3-a-days. So in practice in the summer times during training camp, we had 3-a-days. We went at it every single day, and we made each other better. So when I got to play in games against what our big rival was at the time, Bethune-Cookman, who was Terry Williams, a great player, I felt like I could play and beat anybody, including but not limited to him. So it was great.
UCF now has a long history of putting wide receivers in the NFL. We've got a few guys in the league right now. Gabe Davis had a big game in the playoffs.
Yes.
Give me your top 5, and you can include yourself, all-time UCF wide receivers.
Wow. I would say myself, Sean Beckton, Gabe Davis, the young man that plays with the Saints, I forget his name.
Traquan Smith.
Traquan Smith, and Teddy Wilson.
Mike, you got to be impressed. He pulled off a top 5 list just like that.
I also
Hold on, he's got.
also want to include Brandon Marshall.
I was gonna say Brandon Marshall's got probably in it, but better pro career than a UCF career. So I think you guys got him beat at UCF.
Right.
Bernard Ford, it has been a pleasure to have you be a part of Sons of UCF Live tonight. Thank you for all you've done to pave the way for the success of UCF football.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bernard.
Thanks, sir.
UCF Athletics Hall of Famer Bernard Ford. Storied career at UCF. Accomplished a lot in just a brief period of time, but a very pivotal time in the growth of UCF football.
It's so crazy to hear. We've heard these stories before, Trace. Him say something to the effect of, we were told if we didn't win, this whole program was going under. And to think we're sitting here now in 2022 on this wild thing called the internet, talking UC football, and the tipping point that could have happened back in 85, 86, 87, 88, the pressure these kids had on them, where that was there, where we are now. It's just incredible to think about that tipping point and what could have happened and how fortunate we are that we're here right now today with the spot that we're in.
Hey, this guy is one of the greats, man. Go back and look at the numbers. He's got just as good numbers as anybody. One season, I think he had 1,600 yards receiving. Speedster, one of the original number 8, but one of the original top wide receivers we ever had here. Great to finally catch up with him.
Punter, kick return.
Yeah, he did it all.
A quarterback. Versatile.
Was he the equipment manager? He was the trainer. It sounds like he did it all back then.
He left off Sean Jefferson. That's another one.
Are you questioning him being on that top 5?
No.
No.
I'm questioning Traquan Smith. No, Traquan was great too. I don't know. Or Gabe. Gabe maybe is the one looking in.
Always the Mike top 5. I want to know that he just fired off that 5. That was pretty good. Going to be quite the collection of talent Friday night out at the Celeste Hotel on the UCF campus. The Built by UCF night, the big Mission 24 Mission Control event, with some proceeds from that going to the Otis Anderson Jr. Foundation. Of course, Dante Culpepper amongst the A-listers on here. Mike, if you could talk to somebody here, who would be someone you'd want to talk with for a few moments at this event?
I mean, Shaquem is always the guy. He lights up the room. He's like the 6th name on this list, but to me, I think he's going to probably be one of the most popular guys there. Of course, Dante. We've been dying to talk to Dante since we started this podcast, so that'd be a one. We just spoke to KZ a couple weeks ago. We've never spoke to Blake, so that'd be a good one too.
Adam, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Dante's probably the easy answer, right? Because he hasn't been around the program as much. I think there'd be a lot I'd love to ask him and love to hear. I imagine he's got similar stories to what we just heard from Bernard Ford, even though his time was a little bit later. I mean, he literally helped carry UCF to where they were. And I'd be curious to think about and hear about the pressure that may have been on him, what he was kind of going through, and if he even recognized how important he was as a figure. So I guess I go with Dante on that one. But so many great names on this list, so many great opportunities to meet some great nights. I couldn't fit them all on this little graphic here. So many more folks will be available. But it's a who's who of UCF celebrities here tomorrow night at the Celeste Hotel.
Well, as KZ said on the show a couple of weeks ago, this may be the only opportunity that this collection of guys are all together in the same room at the same night, just because of schedules and things like that. So for everybody going to that should be a special one. Adam, you pitched me on an idea some weeks back saying, why don't we get to know the future Big 12 opponents? And I reached out to a fellow podcast host with Texas Tech, Rob Bro, who's with the podcast Gamblin' Gauchos, and he joins us now to talk all things Texas Tech football and athletics. Rob, thanks so much for joining us on the Sons of UCF Live.
Yes, sir. I feel like I'm missing like a double T back here or something. You guys are all decked out.
Well, welcome. We welcome you to UCF that way. What was the fan base's reaction to the moves of the Big 12, Oklahoma, Texas going to the SEC, and then also the inclusion of UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and in particular UCF? What do you think it means to have UCF be a part of the new Big 12?
Yeah, I think everybody's really excited about UCF. if you're looking at just potential replacements for Texas and Oklahoma, there's not a 1-to-1. So I think when people were looking at big brands of college football, because obviously football is king here in college athletics, that you're looking for, it was BYU was the big fish and UCF right behind them as the kind of the king of the ACC or the AAC that you wanted to move on from. So I think a lot of fans are maybe upset that Texas and Oklahoma are leaving because there's some rivalries there. There's you're not going to get to play them as much, but I, for one, in Texas Tech's perspective, you can maybe get out from under the Longhorn thumb a little bit because a lot of what the Big 12 has struggled with in the last, 10 years is not expanding, not getting a Big 12 network. And a lot of that is just, Texas's fault. So we're really excited about UCF. You expand the brand, you expand the footprint, maybe get to go to Florida a couple of times. I mean, I don't know if you've been to Lubbock, Texas. No beaches. So surely there's some views down in Orlando you might want to get to.
But I understand you have prairie dogs.
We do, yes.
Tell us about the prairie dog attraction there in the park.
Yeah, it's called a prairie dog town. It's really just a dirt field. And if you look real close, there's some prairie dogs sticking up like across the field. So it's nice, prairie dog town.
You might not be selling the Knight fan base on a road trip to Lubbock when you say that.
We have some more things. Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll get to that. Yeah.
Rob, I had a chance to talk to Mike Farrell last night. He talked about the football program and Joey McGuire and how he thought Joey McGuire was putting together a low-key, really solid recruiting class. Obviously, you said it earlier off the top, football kind of rules the college sports landscapes. Give us a snapshot of where Texas Tech football is now, and how do you project them over the next couple of seasons under the new stewardship of Joey McGuire?
Yeah, man, Texas Tech is in a weird spot because you had the Cliff Kingsbury era, which us Texas Tech fans kind of a strange dynamic there with Cliff Kingsbury. He's the kind of the golden boy coming back, the quarterback, had a 6-year run as a coach, never really materialized. And I think when he left, there was a lot of recruiting issues. And so you move forward to Matt Wells, and does this guy have any Texas ties? No. So opposite theory from no Texas ties to pure Texas ties is Joey McGuire. Now, the recruiting has not been an issue at all. You're number 2 in the country. Now, it's early. Certainly that can all change, but number 2 class at any point for Texas Tech ever is a big deal. And I think they've gotten in early on a bunch of guys that you're excited about. Calvin Simpson-Hunt now, after being offered by Texas Tech and committing to Texas Tech, is now headed to visits with Notre Dame and Ohio State and Alabama. So you're getting on some guys early that other people are finding late. If that materializes, I think the future for Texas Tech football can be bright, or at least brighter than it has been. But recruiting's been the biggest issue. They finished 9th, 10th, 8th, 7th in the Big 12 in the last decade. They've not had a winning record in conference play since 2009 in football. So I think there's only room for improvement if you're Texas Tech. And I think Joey McGuire was a home run hire because of his longtime high school coaching record. And then he spent time in the conference at Baylor for about 5 seasons. So he knows the college game. He knows every single high school coach in Texas, it seems like, and has a story or a player from every single one. It's incredible.
I know 2 things about Texas Tech, really. One was that Crabtree catch against touchdown when they won that night game. I think it was 2008. And the other is the video of the bell ringer that looks like he's pleasuring himself. Other than that, I really don't know much about Texas Tech. What big games have you guys won? What have you done in football?
Yeah,
well, we're glad to have you here, Rob, despite my questions. Okay, just so you know.
That is a loaded question. Texas Tech has a lot of football history, but not a lot of singular games, especially in the last, 10 years. There's no Sugar Bowl win to point to. There's no Peach Bowl. to point to. You've not really done anything in the playoff era. But just as far as Texas Tech football goes, the best football entrance in college football, in my opinion, the Masked Rider leading the team out through the smoke. The Masked Rider is a horse, right? And the rider it has a mask and a gaucho hat. Gambling gauchos, by the way.
Subtle plug there. Also, one of Big Game Boomer's best podcasts. We should throw that in there. As well.
Congrats, a fellow winner. Congrats.
You gotta love Big Game Boomer. But I mean, if you're asking me what great things Texas Tech has done in football in the last 10 years, I mean, obviously no national championship, right? At least one that you can claim. So right behind you guys there.
Oh, here we go.
Take us around the other sports. What can we expect? Let's start with men's basketball.
Yeah, men's basketball is in a really good place for Texas Tech. The recruiting is at a high level, continuing from Chris Beard, who left. But Mark Adams takes over. He was with Chris Beard for all 5 seasons there in Lubbock. He's from Brownfield, which is close to Lubbock. Again, another little Brownfield reference. You'll find the names around Lubbock, Level Land, Plainview, Brownfield, they all match the area. So, but if you just look at basketball, really good spots, top, 20 program in the last 5 years, inching toward top 10 program in my opinion. The USA is a really good basketball venue, 15,000 deep in there, and it sells out pretty much every conference game. It is a really, really cool atmosphere in there, and it's a really nice arena. Fairly new. Baseball is the other big sport here at Texas Tech as far as the moneymakers. Baseball has been really good under Tim Tadlock, 4 or 5 Omaha appearances since 2014. That was their first. So they've done, I guess, the best decade you've ever had in Texas Tech baseball has been the last decade as well.
Rob, fun fact, UCF and Texas Tech had actually played one baseball. You won that game?
I'm going to go with UCF just because you – okay.
It sure was, yeah. 2013, 13-8. So be my tour guide. Take me around the Big 12. What's one spot we absolutely have to go to in the Big 12? Maybe one college town, one visiting campus that we absolutely have to go to, and one place that you would say stay the hell away from.
Okay. All right, let's go in the new Big 12. The best college town besides Lubbock. I didn't really lead off with the great Prairie Dog town there, but you get some great barbecue in Lubbock. I would stay away from Stillwater, Oklahoma. Great towns other than Lubbock. Waco is a pretty underrated place. I'm going to get some help for that one. Austin is leaving. Let's see. I wasn't ready for this one. Manhattan, Kansas, because it's close to Kansas City. Kansas City has some good barbecue.
So you're selling Manhattan based on proximity to Kansas City.
Yeah. Well, Lubbock's the best college town in the Big 12. I mean, Orlando's coming in.
Can I get a more deep dive look at Stillwater is a place I want to stay away from?
Well, you have Garth Brooks, who is
Okay.
from Stillwater, and nothing else has come there. It's small. It smells bad. The stadium's not very good. They have this stupid pad around the bottom of their stadium. They bang with paddles. It's the most annoying thing that has ever happened in a college football game, and they do it incessantly. They've also stolen every tradition from Texas Tech. They have a mass rider. They call it a spirit rider. Yeah, good one. It's got a cape and everything, just like Texas Tech. They do pistols firing, not guns up, pistols firing. So we call them Xerox U here at Texas Tech.
I like it.
All right, so the Big 12 is they've announced that they're gonna stay 9 conference games, no divisions. Do you like that? How do you has it been working out for you guys the last few years?
Again, it's not worked out good for us.
Not you guys. I'm saying that's really like
the conference has been good. I like it. You had the one true champion thing for a couple of years where you didn't have a conference championship game. That was not. If you can have the conference championship game with the round robin, I think it works out really well if everyone plays good non-conference games. Because if you're playing, I don't know, UTEP and like the Sisters of the Blind School in non-conference, it doesn't help your conference. And now that you have, and now that you have 12 conference teams moving forward, I wonder how that'll work, if they'll do pods or split system or what it's going to be. How they schedule it is going to be interesting. But I like the round robin, and I prefer non-conference games because it adds a Power 5 conference game, and I think the Big 12 is going to need every Power 5 game they can get on the schedule to be in the playoff contention.
How would you describe the fan base, the passion of the Texas Tech Red Raider fan base?
Yeah, they're pretty rabid. You can get on their bad side pretty easy. They're pretty cutthroat on Twitter. We don't have a cool nickname like the Twitter Mafia. What is it? The UCF Twitter Mafia? Whatever you guys are, but I would say
you'll learn about us. You'll learn about us, Rob.
You're about to learn about it right now, actually.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. There wasn't a slight there. Here's another comment on the pleasuring bell ringer. It's called birthday, okay? And you hold the ball of the bell and you slam it into the bell. It's perfect.
You're not helping your case.
Yeah. Well,
Hell yeah.
Big Phil is the guy who's doing it there in 2008. The iconic,
Hell yeah.
Big Phil banging them all in birthday. So, that's the bell that, anyways. What was I saying?
I don't know now.
The fan base is great. You're selling out baseball games. You're selling out basketball games. If you're winning, the Jones is amazing. Now, you haven't won a lot here at Texas Tech in football in the last years, but in the lead share, it was the Pirate Ship.
We're familiar with those. We're familiar with those Pirate Ships.
60,000 capacity there at Jones Stadium. So it's a really epic atmosphere when you're winning, which I think with Joey McGuire they will be.
Rob mentioned Mike Crabtree off the top. Obviously, he's an iconic player at Texas Tech. Patrick Mahomes went there as well. Who are some of the other notable alums, notable names that have come from Texas Tech that you think that we would know about as a fan base?
Yeah, in the NFL, Wes Welker. Wes Welker went to Texas Tech, a longtime Patriot, Denver Bronco, Miami Dolphin, kicked some field goals for Miami. Jakeem Grant went to Texas Tech. Danny Amendola, man, I'm gonna get some of these wrong. Jordan Brooks, currently with the Seahawks, should have been a Pro Bowler last year, linebacker. That you would know. That's a good list. There's also been a lot of offensive linemen run through. DeAndre Washington, Sam McGuavin, linebacker for the Dolphins, went to Texas Tech. Zach Thomas, obviously, long time, should be a Hall of Famer. They keep snubbing him. Long-time Miami Dolphin there, Zach Thomas, linebacker. E.J. Holub is the only player to start on offense and defense in a Super Bowl. Early Chiefs back in the, the Super Bowl 1 and 3. So E.J. Holub.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. I got a bunch of fun facts if you want them. Like the Bell's same birthday.
All right. Well, Bob Bowlesby has announced that he's retiring very soon. And where would you like to see the direction of this conference head? Who do you have somebody in mind to take over, or what changes do you want to see made?
Yeah, I do. First of all, Bob Bowlesby got fired. He was asked to leave. This retired. That whole thing is so annoying. I am not a Bob Bowlesby fan.
And not a conspiracy theorist, Rob. We like that.
Yeah, absolutely. This man got fired, and there were a few options. I think Oliver Luck, the XFL commissioner, former West Virginia AD, is in the running. He's already involved in the Big 12 as like a consigliere to Bowlesby. I like Kirby Hocutt, Texas Tech's AD, to be the next Big 12 commissioner. That sounds really homer of me, but I think what Texas Tech has done really well in the last decade in his tenure is raise money. And I think if you're the Big 12, what you want to do is raise money in the next era, right? The only thing commissioner needs to do is get a new TV deal. If that's Oliver Luck because he has ties to Fox and whoever else is involved with the XFL, then it's Oliver Luck, who has also done things with the NCAA and the compliance office. I think that's a really good name. Kirby Hocutt, I think, is just a guy who would be good at the job. Otherwise, I want the Big 12 to go completely off the board. I want a TV exec similar to what the Pac-12 did, but like a good one that also understands sports. So somebody who can get this, even if you just sign a Big 12 commissioner for 3 years and say, hey, we want you here for 3 years only to do this deal for the new media rights, because we have been hammered for the last 10 years playing at 11 a.m. because that's prime time on Fox and getting absolutely hosed, just letting Texas and Oklahoma walk all over us. So I think the next commissioner needs to, A, have a backbone, unlike Bob Bowlesby, and B, understand media rights and athletics on campus. So I don't know who that is. Oliver Luck is probably the leading candidate. I would throw Kirby's name in there. I know other schools might not want him in there, but he's also a Kansas State alum. So there's 2 schools there that he can fend for.
Not a fan of Bob Bowlesby. Rob, let's wrap up with this. We were talking about Prairie Dog Town earlier. Our friends over at Night Sports Now rank Lubbock and Texas Tech 8th on their list of places to visit, their road trip plans. Sell us on the rest of the sites. What's the craft beer scene? What's the nightlife scene? What's there to do in Lubbock and surrounding towns?
Yeah, Lubbock 8th in America. That's not bad.
Eighth in the Big 12.
I got it. Two Docks is a local brewery. There's also several other local breweries, but Two Docks is one of my favorites. Local salsa companies. If you want to go around, Calito salsa is really good. A bunch of restaurants, really underrated restaurants. Evie Mae's is top 5 in Texas. You also have Regino Barbecue, which is top 50 in Texas. So 2 really good barbecue joints. Look, the last head coach got fired from Texas Tech because he couldn't tell you what was good about Lubbock. Let me give you the 30-second pitch here.
Okay.
The people are amazing. They're kind. They're cordial. If you need something, they'll give it to you. You're not going to meet you might meet a couple of bad folks here in Lubbock. It's a little bit of a crime problem, but stay away from that.
So, Rob, you don't work for the Chamber of Commerce in Lubbock. No. Am I correct? Your day job is not.
No, but my co-host does. He would be much better at this. Great barbecue, great people. In all seriousness, Texas Tech is the heartbeat of the city. And if you want to find something to do, just ask. The Blue Light, great live music downtown. Triple J Chop House right there across from the Blue Light. Lots of solid eateries, music, an underrated scene. If you're here on a Friday, the first Friday of the month, there's a First Friday art trail that's really fun. Art, music, food trucks. It's a really good time. And
tell us about your show. How often do you come out? Where can folks find you as we get to know more about the Big 12?
Yeah, you can listen to us anywhere you download a podcast. Gambling Gauchos. You can also follow us at Gambling Gauchos on Twitter. We're twice weekly. We should really be better about doing it at certain times. We're just kind of free flowing though. During football season, Sundays and Wednesdays. And then if we want to do a special one, we can do a special one. You know how those are. If something happens, you got to talk about it. So the Gambling Gauchos, and I appreciate you guys having me on.
Rob, we have enjoyed getting to know you and a little bit more about our future Big 12 rival in Texas Tech. And I'm looking forward to hanging out with you near Prairie Dog Town, grabbing a craft beer when I come to town.
Absolutely.
All right. Rob Rowe, Gambling Gauchos podcast covering Big 12 and Texas Tech. All right, guys, you sold or do you have it 8th as Night Sports Now does on their list of Big 12? They've got a bit of a crime problem, says Rob. Don't you worry about that.
Lock your doors. You're fine. I forgot. I should have asked him. I didn't think he would know. What's the flight situation to Lubbock? If If I got to take a bunch of connections, that's going to really be a problem for me.
Yeah, according to Christian over there at Night Sports Now, flights are all over the place. Some take you through Dallas, others through Denver. That doesn't seem good. Your travel range anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, could be multiple stops, so it could be something.
Well, you heard on the show that we did this week, I still haven't been to New Orleans. We've had the same conference as Tulane for a long time. There is no way I'm ever going to Lubbock. I can't imagine a situation. I don't think you could pay me to go there.
Hold on. I've got it. So,
I mean, how much?
Championship game, UCF and Texas Tech. Winner goes to a New Year's Six bowl in Lubbock. You're not going?
I was thinking of that exact situation when I was saying that, but no, I'm probably going to the watch party here in Fort Lauderdale. It's going to be a lot cheaper and probably a lot more fun.
All right, we kicked off Get to Know the Big 12 with Rob of the Gambling Gauchos and Texas Tech. More to come on future shows. Quick Around the Kingdom. Softball finishes the top 16 in 4 final polls, 13th, 14th, 15th, and all of those. So congratulations to softball. All right, let's open that mailbag. I understand. Now, is this a walk and talk, or there was a promo there that there could have been a float and talk or something a little bit different this week?
This may be the borderline not safe for work edition of the Sons of UCF. I think Mike.
You mean like Mike jumping rope on his
Instagram? No, that perfectly edited, by the way. No, this one, Mike's got some competition, is all I'm going to tell you, just in terms of comfortableness. I got nothing else. Here you go.
Hey, guys. How are you doing today? My question is about the wide receiver position. It seems a conclusion that Ryan O'Keefe will be the favorite receiver for the Knights this year. My question is, who will be the Brandon Johnson of the season, and all he does is score touchdowns? I'm going from BJ to AJ. I'm expecting Amari Johnson to be the breakout year for him, and I want to know what you think. Go Knights, and I hope to see everyone at the Celeste Hotel on Friday night.
We may find Greg out by the pool before the event. I like that. Float and talk. All right, who's our Brandon Johnson, Adam?
I forgot the question. A lot of
segue from the swimming pool. Who emerges in that Brandon Johnson role?
Float talk, Ryan no shirts, BJ. So I'm going to go with Kobe Hudson as my pick. He looked like a professional receiver when we saw him in the spring game. A big kid. Obviously, he's got some experience. Maybe put him in the slot. He boxes out a small, nickel corner or something like that. So give me Kobe Hudson.
Yeah, I know I'm cheating. I'm using the same answer as last week. Not necessarily a receiver, but the guy he said who's going to catch that touchdown every week, I'm looking at Gamble. Kimura Gamble, the tight end. I think he's going to be a big target in the red zone.
At Hugh C. Heff, many UCF football legends. We talked about it going to the Celeste Hotel Friday night. How do Timo? Is that the music? The music. How did Timo and Gus? No, that's good. Well, I like when we experiment with different music, but whatever it was last week was a little slow.
Let's go some dance pop. Here we go.
All right, we'll work with that. How do Timo and Gus leverage all of those folks in the same room and that reconnection? I will say Carlos McCants and the team have done a tremendous job reconnecting with previous athletes at UCF to help bring together events like this and connect past stars to the current. So how did Timo and Gus leverage guys like this? Dante Culpepper, Blake Bortles.
Can I be honest?
Yes.
Leverage their wallets, right? Because we need big time donations. We saw the Bortles and Murray training room that came about. Obviously, we know a lot of these guys had some NFL careers. If I'm Timo, I'm trying to find creative ways to get them involved, both from a sponsorship standpoint, put their name on a building, put their name on the stall next to Mike's in the bathroom, whatever you want to do. But I'm trying to leverage their wallets and seeing if there's some synergies there to continue to add to what I need to do from a financial standpoint.
So you're bait and switching them. You're telling them, hey, come here, help us raise money. Oh, by the way, while you're here, Give me all your money.
Yes.
I like
this,
that.
This euro could be yours for just a low price. Absolutely.
Our buddy Eric Lopez at Eric Lopez Elo asking if the Big 12 announced a deal similar to what MLS did the other day, where they're pulling off ESPN and going to Apple TV with a 10-year deal. They're taking a lot of money, 10-year deal. What do you think the reaction would be if the Big 12 just said they were going to go with a streaming service?
So no linears on the table here. Is that the way he's framing this?
Yeah, he's framing it that it's going to be at least primarily streaming. MLS may come out with something where they'll do some limited games on ESPN or another channel, but the bulk of the content's going to be on Apple.
So hot take number 2, after I pickpocketed Latavius Murray and all the Built by Knights, I actually think this wouldn't be that bad. You would always know where the game is. You wouldn't have to worry about what channel you got to find. As long as you got the server set up and you've got an internet connection, you're wired in. I know there's times, Trace, Mike, we've been traveling and you're like, I don't have CBS Sports Network in the hotel. It's on ESPNU. I don't have that. You'd always know where it is. You can always prepare for it in advance. You would have it really plug and play. You set it up, you're good to go. So I don't think it would be that bad. It depends what the dollars are. Now, if the dollars for the deal are great, but from an ease of use standpoint, I know I got my Apple TV thing. I'm good to go. It actually probably would be easier.
Yeah, there's just something about being on a big network, though, right? CBS at 3 o'clock, ABC primetime. You got to still have that, I think. If you give that up completely to go digital, I don't know if I'm with you.
Our next question comes from our friend Brian W. Peterson. By the way, can I read his review, a 5-star review of Big Game Boomer's best UCF podcast? He says, hands down, the best and most entertaining podcast for the faithful UCF fan, and at the very least, insightful for any UCF newcomer. I've been listening weekly since the Sun started. It's a heck of a show. You won't be disappointed. So, a lead in to his question. Timo mentioned moving forward, Big 12, 9 conference games, it looks like, switching, of course, between 4 home, 5 away, and back and forth. He says he thinks this sounds like a major disadvantage. Why cannibalize yourself? Why would the conference want to do this? Money, right? There's just more money in the conference games than those non-con games.
Yeah, I feel compelled now that Brian had such a nice review that I should share. I know he doesn't call me about my expiring car warranty. I actually know he's in the financial sector. I think he's a pretty well-known certified public accountant. And Brian should know, of anything, it is the money that does this, right? It allows you to put the best matchups, allows you to continue to sell tickets, get you one extra gate potentially for each of those teams, more money for the Big 12. So this is an MONEY.
Yeah, and there's going to be years where having the 2 best teams square off at the end is going to help somebody get into the playoffs. So I think it all evens out eventually.
Robert, 2 letters, 2 words. He combines both the question and he framed it in terms of a poll. It says, as UCF football moves into the Big 12, what should be the priority regarding the stadium? Increased capacity, more premium price options, or more student ticket availability? I do not think increasing capacity need be on the table. I think they need to carve out sections where they can get more premium.
I agree. Yeah, and in some respects, right, there's an advantage to keeping it a little bit smaller, right? It makes it there's a demand for that. I think until you have a database of 20,000 folks on a waiting list, that's the day you start talking about erecting another section of a stadium. Until then, I think you go more ways to get your customers more premium options, more ways to increase revenue inside the actual building.
Yeah, but if you go back to a few years ago, 2018, mostly 18 and 19, they were turning students away at the gate because there were too many of them. And I think maybe if you expand the student section, make that a little more rowdier, that section and on both end zones, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
At Brian Huey, what sport is most and least prepared to compete for a title immediately in the Big 12? I will just make mention that there have been a couple of times in the last few weeks in which Terry Mahajer has praised women's sports and made mention that the men's sports, and I think he's saying men's basketball and baseball, have to do a lot more as we move to the Big 12. So he certainly sent out a call there to those coaches and those programs. So most and least prepared to compete. I just think because of logistics, and circumstances, men's basketball's got a tough road. And let's double down on softball as being able to move in the best way.
I'm going to go with both men's and women's basketball. The Big 12 is a powerhouse basketball conference on the women's side. Baylor has been a powerhouse team for a long time. I'm going to go with both basketball programs. I mean, we heard Rob talk about the atmosphere in the Big 12, sold out stadiums. Those aren't things I don't know that we're prepared for in a road game atmosphere. Basketball takes a while to catch up. Like Robert's already got your answer if you want to move on to the next question.
I think what we're most prepared for is football. I think we're going to go in there and compete right away. I think with Malzahn here, he's already building the team to compete in the Big 12. I think we're going to be better this year, and the year after that, we're going to be very good. Remember, we moved into the American and won that thing right away. We competed in Conference USA right away, too. So I'm not scared of moving into the Big 12 football-wise. Some other sports have a ways to go.
A late add to the questions from at UCF Knots. Over under 2.5 UCF football conference championships over the next 5 years? Ooh, that's a good question.
Take the under right now. I mean, we haven't won one. We haven't won one. Let's win one before we win 3 at this point. So I would take the under.
Under.
There's going to be a learning curve in the Big 12. I go under.
Does that include this year? In the next 5 years, we got to win
5 years.
3. I mean, you got to win one this year, and then you got to win 2 out of 4.
You got to win 2 in the Big 12.
That's going to be tough, especially the first. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to win it the first year, but I think we're going to be tough. And by year 2, year 3, we should be contending for it. And then once Texas and Oklahoma leave, I mean, we have a chance to be a powerhouse.
You don't think they're going to win it in their first year, but yet you're going to predict them to win all their games. But at Spursy night, Big 12 matchup, you're looking forward to the most. And I guess maybe that's just on the field, or maybe it's the travel. Obviously, Texas Tech for Mike's not going to be on there. How about Baylor? A little bit, rekindle that from 2013.
Yeah, I said this on the pod. I think Baylor's got a new stadium. They do sailgating, right? I think you can bring your boat right up there. They got a brand new stadium out there. Waco's got some stuff. So I'll go Baylor maybe for atmosphere. I think if they can get their act back together, I'm curious about TCU. I think TCU is another school that's always been a pretty solid program, and it's in the Dallas Metroplex area. So I think that's a good option as well. So I'll go Baylor and TCU.
I'm looking forward to killing Kansas every year. I mean, that could be fun, right? At least a doormat that we can just blow out every year. Who doesn't have fun with those games?
And then we will end with at @GoKnights_Paul J. Any tailgating or stadium tips for the FAU game? Is this the week, Mike, that we announce the big pool party or big party at your place with the free beer and the free potato salad? That's at your house.
Spoiler alert.
It's a night game.
Spoiler alert.
Night game. So we got the whole afternoon to party.
It's a very real possibility that I won't even be here. So maybe I'll rent out my house for VRBO. I don't know.
We're Gordon and partners on this, renting out Mike's house for a big party.
In all seriousness, keep an eye on that date. We're cooking some things up. We'll see what we have in play. I do have I have imaging of where Mike may be that weekend. I can look into the future, and I've got a live photograph of Mike that weekend. So he won't be able to join us, unfortunately, but keep an eye on it. Maybe there's something going on for that game, but get in early, apparently. Not Mike, but into the FAU stadium.
So is this a birthday, an anniversary? How do you miss the game in your
I
own
don't know what
backyard?
this is, Tracy. I don't know what this is.
No, I meant Mike. Mike with his conflict.
My wife's birthday is September 14th.
She doesn't want to spend it at FAU Stadium.
No, probably not. One of our very good friends is having a 40th birthday, a destination birthday. We may be going to Columbia. It's still in the works. We're on a Zoom call tomorrow to sort things out. If it doesn't happen, then yeah, I'll be in Boca. I'm going to be in Orlando for Louisville. I'm planning.
Can we get Paul and some other fans in the South Florida area to hop on that Zoom call and make their case to have you at FAU?
Sure. I don't think that's going to carry much weight, but they're more than welcome to join.
Wow. Can we get Dontravius Wilson? Is he available to hop on that Zoom call? He was available for you this week as a guest. That was a good trip down memory lane with Dontravius.
Yeah, good to catch up with the D Train. We called him the D Train off the top. We weren't sure if that was his nickname. He confirmed it was, so that we got that awkwardness out of the way. Again, he played an interesting role in UCF. You know, he was there for that 13th season. I thought the best part of that conversation was I asked him. He got injured in 2015. kept trying to come back and play, wasn't himself. He admitted that. And I asked him if he could do it over again, would he have redshirted 15 to play 17? And he said all day, every day he wanted to. So I thought that was interesting, the way he thought about that. But it was good to catch up with the D-Train.
I mean, that was a very easy question. Would you rather not play the year we didn't win a game or play the year that we won every single game? I think everybody in their right mind would have chose that one. But a very good conversation with Andrevius, nonetheless.
Those are the kind of guests and the kind of hard-hitting questions that make you the #1 podcast by Big Game Boomer in the UCF space.
Live look at next week's guest on screen, right? We're going to track this guy down. We're going to find out who this is, and this is our next guest on the Sons of UCF.
The first time I saw that video, I could not stop laughing for probably hours. That's an old video, too. That goes back a ways.
It is.
All right, guys. We had UCF Athletics Hall of Famer Bernard Ford on the show, and of course Rob from Gamblin' Gauchos introducing us to Texas Tech. Not bad for a Thursday. We do thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again on the Sons of UCF Live. For Adam and Mike, I'm Trey Strelko. Go Knights!
Charge on!